Hi, welcome to the Freedom in Education Founders Podcast. Our nonprofit organization was born out of frustration over what was and wasn't being taught in the classroom and how little parents and classroom teachers had to say about that. Together, we can restore high quality education for all students so they can thrive and flourish as virtuous adults. We're glad you're joining us and hope that we can offer you some hope, encouragement, and most of all, solutions to some of the problems facing education in America today. I am absolutely thrilled to introduce my guest on the podcast today, Mr. Patrick Whalen. He is the founder and chief executive officer at Iliad Athletics. He served for over a decade in the United States Marine Corps, where he deployed multiple times and served in a variety of leadership roles. He has extensive educational experience as a teacher, head of school founder, and executive in the education service industry. He is also a father of four, and he works and trains alongside his family on their homestead in Michigan. So welcome to the podcast, and thank you for your service. So much appreciate everything that you did as a Marine, and also as what you continue to do right now in education.
Well, it's my pleasure, Beanie, and thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. So I discovered Iliad Athletics on LinkedIn, I think, which, I only sort of dabble in LinkedIn just a little bit, just because it's kind of fun to see what's going on out there, and happened to come across your program and was immediately drawn to it. I'm a runner. I'm very much interested in physical health, and I think that it's a really important component, not just to children, but I think for adults as well. And I think it's an important component that we've lost sort of focus of here recently. But it also, the more I dug into it, and then when we spoke about it, I thought that it tied really well in with the mission of freedom in education. Just last week, I did a podcast with David Hine, who wrote Teaching the Virtues. And we talked in Teaching the Virtues about cultivating good habits in students. And of course, we were talking about things like prudence and courage and temperance and whatnot. But in Iliad Athletics, and I went to your website and I looked, and part of what you talk about on there is creating good habits in children and students. And so I just want you to kind of start with the why you did this, and then feel free to wander if you want to. Tell the audience what first made you think of this or drive you to do this.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks. Well, I love the connection to this conversation about how one actually cultivates virtue, because that's an ideal introduction to this topic. One of the things our three fundamentals are fitness, nature, and character. And the character development is something, you think, well, what does that have to do with physical education? Like, I get fitness and maybe nature, outdoorsmanship. Okay, what does character have to do with this? But you described this perfectly when you talk about how you develop habits. Right. And so one of the reasons that I think physical education is important is not just the physical aspect of it, but it's actually the whole human education, because the physical ends up serving up some of the best opportunities to actually cultivate health in the whole human person, which includes in our character. So I started Iliad Athletics several years ago as a way to. So I'd done a number of years in the Marine Corps and worked with a lot of young men and women in the Marine Corps, many of whom, this will probably not surprise you to hear, hated school, objected to, and this is not because they're Marines. This is just because I think a lot of young people would say the same thing. They hated school, and I have a kind of an academic family and academic background, and so I always kind of press on that, like, why? What was it? And it comes down to a handful of kind of culprits. I don't like sitting in a chair all day. I don't like just being talked at all day. I'm sitting in the classroom looking out the window, wondering what it's like out on the other side of this window rather than being in this classroom right now. And then nothing I got in education had anything to do with my life. Like, when the big question that teachers always get, which is, when will I ever use this? Or what does this have to do with anything? So this kind of common feedback from these folks, these like young Marines, and then in various points when I was responsible for training them, like training, this is an education. I need to teach you how to navigate with a map and compass, because we're going to need to rely on your skills navigating with a map and compass to like get this team from point A to point B. And so it's a heavy duty educational environment. And the thing that the military does when it's teaching things is it doesn't simply place you in a classroom and talk at you as if here's information and here's your brain and we're just going to connect these two things up with a USB cable and download it and then we're good to go. There's the term that they would use in the Marine Corps was prac app. It's a practical application. So we're going to teach you a concept and then we're immediately going to go out and prac app it. I think the implication of that being that a concept that you've worked with merely intellectually doesn't have the staying power and doesn't have the practical efficacy in your life that you need it to. So in the military, like these are very practical things that potentially your life will depend on. How do we teach those things? So fast forward a couple of years, I was getting into education myself, and I just found that in classroom environments, whether I was teaching myself or even when I was ahead of school, the body, this kind of prac app, this physical application of or the connection between concepts, ideas, and actually practicing them or doing them somehow involving the body, just invariably gave me the best results as a teacher. Gave me the most interesting conversations, the best educational opportunities with students. So my thought with Iliad Athletics, we started running outdoorsmanship camps, in part because I remain convinced that the body is an integral part of any education. It's an integral part of whole human flourishing. But then also for a couple other reasons. So the body is a key kind of educational tool, and we're leaving a ton on the table if we leave the body out of the equation. But then furthermore, I was seeing that more and more kids are growing up in environments that are highly technologized, and technology is a tool. It's a wonderful variety of tools that are technological. But we're living in an age when the technologies, in particular screen technologies that kind of enforce a sedentary lifestyle, are just becoming so dominant. So it's increasingly common to have a child's day accompanied by a screen from dawn to dusk. Yeah. And typically, if our life is being kind of orchestrated by a screen, including our education, we're typically in a fairly sedentary posture. And so the things that maybe you and I grew up doing, like playing outside, having unstructured time, unsupervised time, unscripted time, socially and physically, there was less and less of that, or at least so much of that was being kind of taken over by the really dominant technologies of our day. And so I thought, well, one way that I can serve these kids, and I'm a father, and so I see this with my own kids, and like, what do I think is healthy and good for them? And if I'm not crazy, this is probably healthy and good for other kids too. So we started running camps, and it's kind of basic outdoorsmanship camps. We get kids in the outdoors, off the TVs, off the computers, get them outside. Teach them how to build fires, teach them how to use map and compass, teach them how to tie knots, all this stuff, and also just get outside, get moving, like learn how to use your body. So Iliad Athletics started that way, but then very quickly I realized how schools have this incredible opportunity to do a lot of that work that we were attempting to do in our camps through a vehicle that already exists, most kids are already involved in this. And so we got to work several years ago on developing a physical education curriculum. It's not, it doesn't involve lighting fires in schools, et cetera, but it involves training and teaching the body physical skill. So that's how Iliad Athletics started. And if you'd like me to, I can start talking about like what the object of this particular PE curriculum is.
Yeah, well, and I think that this will probably lead into it. One of the things that you and I spoke about was this this surge of really highly competitive youth sports. So, 5 and 6 year olds traveling every weekend to go, play soccer and all this kind of stuff, which, was like, I'm so glad that we really pretty much missed that, that window, but it's really taken over. And while that's great, they're engaged in those sports. They go to practice, 3, 4, or 5 times a night. They're out there, but then they leave that, and then they come home and sit in front of their video game while they're on the road to their, competitive soccer team, or game. They're, on their phone or their iPad or whatever. And so one of the things that we talked about is, and you'll speak to this, I'm sure, when you talk about the curriculum, it's not necessarily about creating the next Olympic athlete. It's not necessarily about creating the next marathon runner. It's about cultivating just really daily healthy habits. I think I shared with you my aversion to Fitbits and keeping track of how many steps you take, because walking should just be a part of everyone's life. Like, you should count your steps. You should just be moving your body every day. And so I think, and I think that you'll speak to that when you talk about your curriculum. So yeah, talk about how the curriculum isn't just designed to, create bodybuilders and marathon runners, but really to cultivate those habits.
Yeah. It's great. And to your point, like the kids who have the opportunity to be on these sports teams, like that's great. That's wonderful for them. In part just because of how important, like there's study after study coming out. We're remembering what our common sense always told us, which is that this physical activity is profoundly good for us, cognitively, academically, spiritually, psychologically, let alone physically.
Right.
So kids like that with those kinds of opportunities already have a leg up in terms of developing habits of like basic physical activity. But what especially about the kids who aren't naturally gifted, who aren't athletically inclined, and who, I don't really want to go out for that travel team, or I don't want to go out for the football team or the whatever. And so I'm just kind of left by the wayside, as if I don't have a body that I'm going to have until the day that I die. And all of the potential complications of having a body that's not in good shape. One of my kind of fitness heroes, a guy named Craig Glassman, would say that fitness and illness are just different points on the same scale, but they measure the same thing. So that's right. This is the intended end state of our curriculum is what we call functional physical fluency, and that's as opposed to physical literacy, which I think there's nothing wrong and with using that term. I think it's great, but I really emphasize the functional physical fluency, because you could imagine somebody who had mere literacy. It's like I know the grammar, I know the vocabulary, but I can't actually carry on a conversation in this language. Whereas, and so as that relates to the body, or like the physical education, physical literacy would be, maybe I know what I'm supposed to do, or I know how the body is supposed to work. But the big question for a successful education is, have we cultivated the habits so that this child, when they graduate from our program, is capable of of taking agency and self-responsibility and doing this for the rest of his or her life, kind of governing yourself. So functional physical fluency is we want to equip students to be able to handle physically anything that nature might throw at them, right? So that's the functional. Like the test for this is life. The test is reality, and it's not. And so it's tough to do that like in a particular school day, because that reality, that test plays out over a lifetime, including the various kind of injuries or illnesses, et cetera. And it includes everything like nutrition and medicine, et cetera. But what can we as educators do in a K-12 environment? So we specifically don't try to cultivate marathon runners or bodybuilders, in part because that's a kind of a physical specialization. Like, to be a marathon runner is not to be all around fit. It's to have specialized in this very particular kind of fitness. And same with the bodybuilder. And I think what's appropriate for K-12 education is kind of general education. You have a body. Let's make sure you know how to use it. Can it do all the things that a body should be able naturally to do? That's the fitness nature. Can it do all the things that your body is kind of built and designed to do? And can you do that well? So once we've kind of articulated that as our destination, that's our target. Then what the curriculum is designed to assess where students are today. What's your fitness level right now? Where are you? What are you struggling with? Strengths, weaknesses, so we can effectively coach you through the program to ideally not just going through the paces, but as you said, developing a habit so that when you graduate from the program, you have the knowledge, and now you have the skills, and that culminates in having the habits so that you can go out, you can graduate, you have the knowledge, you have the skills, and you have the habits. So now you don't need a teacher anymore. Like teachers, we want to kind of work ourselves out of a job, right? With at least a particular student. If I've done a good job, you're not going to need me in a minute.
Yeah.
So.
Or ideally, if they do decide they want to take up running to be a competitive runner as an adult, they'll know who to go find and what information is correct and not correct. And, as far as, because I've heard some really bad advice when it comes to running, and, really bad advice when it comes to other sports. It's like, well, they need to be able to just like anything else. I mean, I read books now that I wish I would have read when I was in school, and I go to respected teachers that I can trust on like social media to sort of guide me through some of those things. And I think the same thing right. with the physical health as well. So one of the things that I think we talked about before, being able to push yourself physically, which I find to be sort of in short order these days, that, while I get tired, I'm just going to stop. And I'm like, when are you going to push yourself past that? But being able to push yourself physically and then to continue making good choices morally once you reach that point. And so we had a little conversation about that, but share with our audience sort of the idea behind that.
Yeah, like you can look at a beautiful painting and be like, that's really beautiful. But some of the most beautiful things I've ever seen are when human beings are doing something really, really hard, like really challenging. And you just see the human spirit kind of, I don't know, almost like flexing or like emerging as this super powerful thing. And it tends to do that in the face of adversity. And so I would say that is the most rewarding part of doing this work. And I'll give you an example. One of so a curriculum is a course that you run from a point A to point B. Point B is for us is functional physical fluency, and point A is where you are right now. And we use benchmarking. We call this in our curriculum, we call it benchmarking to figure that out. So it's a number of physical tests. There's been some recent conversation in the news about the presidential fitness test. So it's the same idea. We need to measure and kind of give you an accurate reading on where your fitness levels are right now, so we can dial it in and help coach you toward where they should be. One of the kind of unique things that we've done in our curriculum is in our benchmarking is what we call the Iliad intensity course. And it's brutal. One young woman that ran the course said, it's excruciating, but not impossible. And that's just right. That's what we were going for. And in this course, 3/4 of the course are an individual event. You're running, you're crawling, you're doing all this stuff. And so 3/4 of the way through the event, it's all individual. But then at the 3/4 mark, so you're almost done, but you're already exhausted. Then we introduce for ages 10 and up, we introduce a buddy drag, which means that you have one of your peers who's roughly your same weight that you're responsible for getting from point A back to point B. And only once you get across that finish line with your partner does your time stop. And the point is, you're already exhausted. But it's not just about you. Right. It's when you're exhausted, when you're tired, when you already kind of want to quit or just be done with this, then we introduce the human other. And it's at that point that we say, okay, so now in order to finish, it's not an individual event anymore. You need to like care for this other human being and get them across the finish line. And I think, for me, the most beautiful thing is seeing how hard these students are willing to push themselves, like strive to get their buddy across the finish line. And then, put yourself in my shoes or the PE teacher's shoes as the coach. You're running alongside them the whole way as they're going through all these events. And now they get to the buddy drag part and they've just got to go 20 more meters. And think of all the things that you're able to say to them to encourage them to keep going. You're like, don't leave your buddy behind. You've got it. You can do it. She's depending on you. And you can see all the drama of this kind of experience playing out in their face. And the point, this is why we aspire to character education in PE, because that drama that's playing out in this, don't write it off as like, oh yeah, that's just exercise. No, this is the human spirit, like doing this beautiful kind of act of growing and strengthening and care for the other.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. I've run a couple of marathons, so I get the whole at 3/4 point. That's the hardest. Everybody said, "Oh, after Heartbreak Hill, it's all downhill." I'm like, no, it's not. Actually, I can tell you, no, it's not. But also, we're both parents of 4 children, and so we understand that point where you are absolutely physically, emotionally, mentally empty, right? Like there's nothing left. You got 4 kids, 4 human beings who need you, and you have nothing left. And then you have a spouse who needs you, or you have a neighbor who needs you, or a parent who needs you, or one of the kids needs a little extra. And you've got to dig deep, and you've got to put yourself aside and serve
the question for me is, what's going to equip you to do that better? Is it having a really great definition of perseverance written down in your notebook? Or is it this experience of perseverance when other human beings depend on you? And it's
I mean, right. It's really just beautiful. And it plays out in so many ways. I mean, people will have jobs, careers that will push them to their limit, and then they're still going to have to make those good moral choices. So I love how this just weaves it in. So your motto is live strenuously. And on the character education part, I just pulled a couple of things off of the page that said character is cultivated through resistance and deliberate intention. I love that. And it weaves intentional virtue building into every activity. And, there is just this huge push. It's $1 billion industry, multi-billion dollar industry, this social emotional learning industry, and it's not helping our kids. And in fact, there is some evidence now that it's actually harming our kids. And I just see, I'm really pushing hard for unstructured recess because I think kids just need to go play with each other. That's how they grow socially and emotionally, is by interacting with each other. But also this, just knowing, what, you can actually do more than you think you can do. You can push yourself, and I'm going to teach you how to do that. And just starting that from kindergarten on up. And so I love that you have created this. Your curriculum is K-12. So, schools can pick it up and run with it right today. And I think I believe you said you had done, or you're working on a crosswalk with a state to see if your curriculum aligns with the PE standards. I'm going to guess, based on the current PE standards, that your curriculum not only covers all the standards, but probably exceeds the expectations of the standards. Which is great. Like states right now should be pushing for excellence, not just settling for mediocrity. Go ahead.
No, that's I appreciate you. I appreciate you saying that, because I think this is not our approach is not like a fitness fad. We don't base our approach in some kind of cool new piece of fitness equipment or some. This is fairly common sense, which is not to say that it's just all we do is calisthenics. We hit it hard and then we go home, and it's just where this is pseudo military. It's not paramilitary. It's not pseudo military. It's not merely calisthenics. It's this is rooted in the science of fitness, the science of cultivating health in the body, and excellence, pursuing excellence in the body. So in terms of state standards. And we're doing the study because what I want to be able to do is present to decision makers like, yes, this more than covers your bases. But as you said, this doesn't just cover your bases. Let's not settle for covering the bases. Let's talk about what kind of a physical education program can integrate with the rest of this student's curriculum, with the rest of their kind of academic life, with their life. I'll tell you a quick story. I would always, as an officer in the Marine Corps, I would always do what we called an initial counseling with new Marines that were checking into my platoon or company, and it was it's just a quick one-on-one where we get to know each other because we need to be able to count on each other, and I want to establish some kind of a human relationship. And one of the questions I would always ask is, who was your favorite teacher in high school? And I would often get the answer from these young Marines that, well, I kind of hated school, but my PE teacher or my wrestling coach or my football coach, and if you drill down on that just a little bit, it was never because I just liked physical stuff more. It was always because those figures were never hands off. They were never just teaching. They would always get under the hood of the student's life and call them out for making dumb decisions in their life. Hold them accountable in ways that other teachers maybe are kind of a little hands off or scared to and obviously they're great teachers in every discipline.
Yeah.
But these guys would single out the teachers that had them in some kind of a physical setting because they were just more ambitious about what role they could have in that student's life. And so the point is with states making decisions about physical education curriculum in their states, meeting the standards. Like, well, do the standards include integrating the human, the body with every other aspect of this curriculum, or at least having some kind of helpful tools and suggestions about how one might do that? Also, do those curricula aspire not just to kind of hold the student's hand while they're in school, but to set them up so that they have the knowledge, the skills, and then the desire and the habit to go on and do this for themselves. And on that last thing, I mean, I think being a teacher is really, really hard. It's also a really beautiful thing because the teacher, it's almost impossible for a kid to fall in love with something and take responsibility for doing it for himself or for herself if the teacher who taught it to them didn't set a good example or was somebody who the kids don't want to be like or be around. So the bar for being a teacher is like really, really, really high. Are you someone who can kind of compel through the force of your character, just through your presence and what you're committed to and how hard you work, compel the kids to be like, I want to be like that. So this person takes fitness seriously. That is part of building my desire to take fitness seriously.
Yeah. Well, and on the note of teachers, so maybe there are schools, school leaders, decision makers listening to this saying, this sounds like something I'm interested in, like, but how do we get started? I mean, and I love the fact that you train the teachers to do this. So talk a little bit about your teacher training that you offer.
Yeah. So I mean, the bare minimum for working with Iliad Athletics is just licensing the curriculum on an annual basis, and that gives you access to the kind of online end where you can keep track of student data, kind of your student report card as they move through the benchmarks. Also, a copy of the curriculum itself. But we strongly, we're not going to be there. My coaches they're wonderful, but they're not going to be there to run your PE class for you. So we strongly, first of all, we respect the kind of subsidiarity. We respect the local teachers and the local schools. Like, those are your students. That's your community. You know them better than anybody. And so the best we can do is provide you this tool and teach you how to use it, knowing that you will be the one using it. So we strongly encourage folks to attend one of our educator certification courses. And we ran several this summer. And these are kind of 2-day in-person events. You experience some aspects of the curriculum. We start with a full introduction to the philosophy, our principles, why this looks a little bit different, why we include character. But then we put them through the paces, familiarize them with the document itself, with the curriculum itself, but then also experience some of the unique aspects of the approach, including running the intensity course, which we always just ask for volunteers for that, and that's that's awesome.
That's professional development I would appreciate. Like I would have watched, I watched a few of the clips, and I'm like, I could sit through one of those professional development sessions.
It's so cool. I mean, and this what's really encouraging for me is seeing somebody who is going to be going back and teaching this PE. And when you ask for volunteers, like for this intensity course, boom, immediately like, that's me. I want to go. I want to do it. I want to know what this is like. And then putting it all out there, and it's not easy. So we strongly recommend folks come to the educator certification course so that you leave with a sense of agency. Like you're not executing somebody else's program. You're taking this program as a tool with which you can go and execute. And then for folks for folks who are part of the community licensing the curriculum, we do regular check-ins. We have webinars. Make sure, hey, what can we troubleshoot? What can we fine tune? We have a cool partnership set up with Go Ruck, which is an American kind of veteran-owned equipment manufacturer. You don't need to purchase special equipment to run this program, but if you've already licensed the curriculum from us, you can get some really, really great discounts there. So yeah, we try to make sure that we're providing. We want your school, whoever you are, wherever you are, we want your school, your schools, your network to be successful, because we want those kids graduating with the knowledge, the skills, and the habits to live healthy lives, for all their life. And one other comment. I know we're short on time, but one of our coaches is he's in the National Guard, so he's attached to a Special Forces unit in the National Guard. He's a great young man. One of the comments that he told me when he's training with this National Guard unit is he's been stunned, and he's a real athlete. He's been stunned by the lack of kind of basic kinesthetic sense, like basic awareness of how to control and move your body, and what kinds of things will result in like pain and injury. So little things like how to fall or jump off something that's like more than a foot or two tall, and like how your body can serve as a natural shock absorption, and like your body can do that. You don't need to get injured.
We used to just learn by jumping off rocks as kids, right?
It's exactly, and it's stunning to him. What his comment was like, I'm talking about a bunch of soldiers. Like these are American soldiers who don't know how to fall down without breaking something.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of scary. So we've got some work to do. I mean, and
I think that this conversation is not that different than the conversation we're having around literacy. I mean, when it boils down to it, young adults who are graduating from high school, who are functionally illiterate, well, can they go fill out a job application? Yes. Can they read the headlines? Yes, they can do that. But can they really like dig into a book and enjoy a book? And do they have that habit cultivated of constantly like sort of challenging their mind to read and grow more? It's the same thing with our body. I mean, can we walk and talk and if need be run from one airport gate to the next? We can, but like to actually like exert some energy in your body and be strong. I mean, I remember the point where I was always skinny. I was like a little beanpole, goes with the name, but like I was always skinny. And I remember at a point as a young adult saying, I don't just want to be skinny. I want to be strong. Like I want to have a strong body. And when people would sometimes pass me out running, they say, what are you training for? I'm like, life. I'm just training for life. And I think that's where we want to get with children, and then eventually adults, where you don't have to go out and compete and and do that stuff. It's great if you do, but really just having a strong body, and it does play into your mental state. Having unstructured recess is going to be better for kids once they get into the classroom, they're going to be able to sit and focus better when they know that they get to go have this recess or this PE class where they're going to challenge their bodies and they're going to push themselves hard. Those teachers, when they get them back in that classroom, they're going to see a difference. I mean, they are going to see a difference. And I think that if we can just drive that point home, that this would be a good thing. It's really a shame to me as schools cut budgets, that one of the first things they cut is PE, and they'll say, oh, we'll just fill it with recess. But then, then the schedule gets too busy, so they skip recess, or, it's rainy, so we're not going to go outside. We're just going to, hang out. And so I think it's really a shame that and I think we've seen, an increase in, ADD diagnoses and different, behavior issues. And I don't know. I don't know, but I'm thinking that it's all connected somehow. So,
well, one of the things you're describing is a kind of a culture of fitness and activity, and I think we can do a lot to push that culture, push the culture toward fitness and activity, or away from it. I think schools can do a lot.
yeah,
And things like you just did a great list of all these things. Like, we're canceling recess because it's raining. Like, well, what
okay,
or we don't really. PE is just where we go to burn off energy. All of those things, those are all signals that we're sending that tell kids, hey, this fitness thing isn't serious.
right,
This is not a part of like the toolkit that you need to carry with you through the rest of your life.
right.
We send signals that shape the culture, and half the time they're implicit. You don't have to say PE doesn't matter out loud.
Right.
If you're making certain decisions in your school or in your home, you're sending that signal to the kids. And the problem is with K through 12 education, the heaviest consequence of a sedentary culture, you won't see it when they're in your care. As an educator, you're not going to see the consequences of a lack of a physical culture. They won't be your problem anymore. They're going to be 20 years later when they're struggling with chronic illness, with diabetes, with obesity. And the problem is that I think, even though it might take a little bit of tracing, connecting the dots, I think it's our responsibility. I think we have some responsibility as educators if we've contributed to a sedentary culture, one that does not encourage self-responsibility and a culture of fitness. Then we can't say that we're not in any way responsible for this kind of epidemic of illness that the gravest consequences of which show up when we're adults.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I agree. 100%. And as predicted, you and I could go on for hours talking about this really important topic. This really is a very important topic. I know that the whole child sort of thing is going around. It's not what we're talking about here. This is very different. This truly is. It's mind, body, and soul. And if we're ignoring any part of that, we're not truly providing a genuine education for these children. And so, and your program is so well done. It's so well designed, so accessible. The training that you offer for teachers is great. The resources that you offer, it is very affordable for schools, as far as being able to do that. So I think that if there are school leaders, decision makers, state leaders, district leaders, whoever you are, if you're interested in this, how can they find you and Iliad Athletics? Where should they go to find out more about you?
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for the question. IliadAthletics.com is the website. We have information about our curriculum, about our camps, about our professional development, teacher training. You can also get in touch with the team that way. Reach out on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn, and I post. Iliad Athletics posts regularly on LinkedIn. And then my email address directly is patrick@iliadathletics.com. Iliad just has one L, ILIAD. IliadAthletics.com.
Oh, we should know that.
yeah, but we should know that. But you'd be surprised.
Okay. Well, I hope that people will reach out, and I know that the education commissioner has talked to you, and so that's kind of exciting that there is discussion happening about creating that culture of physical fitness, that physical fitness fluency, and that's exciting to me, and I think that it will bear fruit academically for students as well. So that's a great thing.
Yeah, agreed. We're not alone. So, and
Yeah.
Beanie, thank you. Thank you for the work that you're doing and for this opportunity. Really, really important.
Well, it brings me to meet people like you, and that's just always encouraging. And again, love doing this podcast because I love to learn from all the people working in this area. So thanks for agreeing to come on and join the podcast. And for those of you that enjoy the material like this and meeting great people like Patrick Whalen and hearing about things like Iliad Athletics, the Freedom in Education is a nonprofit organization, and we would love your support if that's something that you want to continue seeing happening. So you can reach out to us at freedomined.org if you are interested in supporting our work. So thank you again, Patrick, for joining us, and we will be in touch.
Thanks. My pleasure.